But first, let's start with Hillary Clinton campaign chairman John Podesta. John, thanks so much for joining us.
Good to be with you, Jake.
So, John, yesterday you slammed FBI Director Comey for going, quote, long on innuendo, light on facts. But frankly, for months, your campaign has been striking a very different note when it comes to Director Comey. Take a listen to Vice Presidential candidate Tim Kaine just 1 week ago.
What I do know is this, that there was an extensive, as you know, Brett, investigation by the FBI under the direction of a wonderful and tough career public servant, Jim Comey. Jim was in the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Eastern District of Virginia when I was the mayor of Richmond, and he's somebody with the highest standards of integrity.
Highest standards of integrity, wonderful, tough, career public servant. How do you use those words and then call his actions on Friday into question?
Well, Jake, look, this was an unprecedented action. It broke with policy of Democratic and Republican Justice Departments. It was done over the advice of senior Justice Department officials. And, you know, I think that the Justice Department has had a long tradition of not interfering in election, coming 11 days before the election. As I said yesterday, it was long on innuendo, short on facts. So we're calling on Mr. Comey to come forward and explain what's at issue here. You know, so far there's no charge of wrongdoing. There's no charge even that Hillary and the reporting that backs it up coming from anonymous law enforcement sources indicates it may not be about her server. It may not be about her at all. So I think this is something that has been tossed into the middle of a campaign. We would have preferred that that not happen, but now that it has happened, Mr. Comey really needs to come forward and explain why he took this unprecedented step, particularly when he said himself in the letter to the Hill that these may not even be significant.
Well, he said that it was pertinent to the investigation. And here's the world according to James Comey's perspective. FBI agents are investigating the husband of one of Hillary Clinton's top aides for allegedly sending illicit material to an underage girl. In the course of that, they stumble upon emails that seem to be relevant to the other investigation, the Clinton investigation. Suddenly, Comey finds that his sworn statement from September that the FBI had completed its review was no longer true. They had more materials. Now, Clinton didn't follow protocols when she started her email server. Huma Abedin didn't turn over that computer. Weiner was doing what he was doing. And you and the Clinton campaign seem to be blaming Comey for being transparent with Congress. What was he supposed to do?
Well, look, Jake, I think he should have done, in my view, and in the view of many senior people in both Democratic and Republican administrations. Two deputy attorney generals from the Bush administration have already come out. He should have taken further steps. Yahoo News reported last night that they haven't even looked at the contents of these. So to throw this in the middle of the campaign, 11 days out, just seemed to break with precedent and be inappropriate at this stage. If they're not significant, they're not significant. So he might have taken the first step of actually having looked at them before he did this in the middle of the presidential campaign so close to the voting.
But it's not that they haven't read any of them. Obviously, the FBI agents who stumbled upon them read some of them and determined them to be pertinent, and then realized they didn't have.
Do you know that?
That's according to the report. It's according to. I'm telling you, according to the reporting of Evan Perez, our Justice Department correspondent, it's not as though they didn't know anything in the emails. They stumbled upon them, found that they seemed to be pertinent to the Clinton email server investigation, and that is why.
Seem to be pertinent, might not be significant 11 days before the election. Is that something you toss on the table, or do you take the time to do what other prosecutors have done in the past and make sure that if it is so significant that you had to go forward with it? So I don't fault him for taking a look at whatever he's found. We don't really know what that is. But at this stage, having taken this step, then he at least ought to explain, you know, if he thinks they're significant or not significant, let him come forward and say why.
Do you accept the fundamental premise that the reason we're here is because Hillary Clinton and her inner circle, not including you, made a horrible decision to set up her private email server, and everything that has happened since then is her fault?
Well, look, I think she's apologized for setting up a private email server. She said it was a mistake. She said she wouldn't do it over again. I think, it's very clear that this has been an issue through the course of this campaign. I think she obviously would like to take that decision back, but she's learned from it. And I think what's important about this campaign at this stage, with 9 days to go, is who's fit to be president, who has the experience, and the question of whether Donald Trump is too dangerous, too temperamentally unfit to be president of the United States. So that's what we're going to close
John,
on.
what is,
and we're going to she's going to talk about the future she wants to build in building an economy that's going to work for everyone, not just people at the top. And we're not going to be distracted by this.
I always hear the Clinton team. I always hear the Clinton team say that she's learned from it. What has she learned?
Well, look, I think that she said many times she wouldn't do it over again. I think it was, I think she didn't give it that much thought when she did it in the first place, and it's the kind of a decision that I think needed more thought, more review, and she didn't do it, and I think she regrets that. I think it's regrettable, but you learn, you move on. I think in contrast to our opponent, who never seems to learn from his mistakes and keeps repeating them and doubling down on them.
So as part of this Judicial Watch lawsuit, Huma Abedin had to testify under oath, and she said, quote, "I looked for all the devices that may have had any of my State Department work on it and returned, gave them to my attorneys for them to review for all relevant documents, and gave them devices and paper." Obviously, this other computer was not included in that group. Have you asked Huma Abedin why she did not turn over this computer that is now being reviewed by the FBI?
Look, I think Huma's been completely cooperative with the authorities, and they've recognized that. She's worked with her attorneys to turn over relevant material. But we don't know what this is all about, really. So it's very hard.
But John, she hasn't been completely cooperative if she didn't turn over every device that had State Department emails on them, and this one computer did.
I think it's clear that she complied to the best of her ability, turned everything over that she had in her possession. I don't know anything more than the speculation that's running wild in the press now about what this is about. I've talked to her.
Have you talked to her? Have you asked Huma Abedin what is on the computer and why she didn't turn it over when she said she had divided all the devices?
We don't know what computer Mr. Comey is talking about. You're assuming a lot of facts that we don't know. So I think that, as I said, she's been fully cooperative with the authorities, and they have recognized that. And I think that we could sit here and speculate and put facts into the record based on.
I'm not speculating, sir.
Reports.
Our reporting is that it was a laptop computer that belonged to Anthony Weiner, and they found State Department emails on that laptop. That's reporting. That's not speculation. You have access to Huma Abedin. I don't. Have you asked her how this happened?
I don't think she knows anything more than what we've seen in the press to date. So, I'm sure if people. If proper authorities want to ask her questions, they'll ask her questions, but she's been fully cooperative in this investigation.
She came off the campaign trail on Saturday. Is she still part of the campaign? Is she still working on the campaign?
Yeah, absolutely. She's been, played a central and vital role in this campaign, and she continues to do that and continues to do her work, running our overall scheduling and advance operation, being a confidant to the senior people in the campaign, and traveling with Hillary. She doesn't travel every day, but she travels frequently with her.
Do you think if Bill Clinton hadn't gone on to that plane in the tarmac in Arizona and talked to Attorney General Loretta Lynch, which caused a big controversy and then necessitated Lynch to come forward and say that she was going to defer to investigators and prosecutors on this matter because of the appearance, the ethical cloud, do you think that if he had not done that, that Attorney General Lynch might have had more control of what happened in this investigation?
I can't speculate about that. I think you sort of gave the money pitch there, though, Jake. She said that she would accept the advice of career prosecutors. The Republicans wanted to spin that up into a conspiracy where there was none. The career prosecutors found that there was no case. Jim Comey himself said it wasn't even close, and she accepted that result.
Yeah. One of the things that's interesting, and one of the things that Democrats in Washington, D.C. are debating, is whether or not Hillary Clinton has actually learned from this experience when it comes to people in her circle who enable bad decisions by the Clintons. And I am not necessarily including you in that group, but the people inside her circle, such as you and Neera Tanden and Robbie Mook, people who are more of, I would say, kind of a new guard, even if you have a long-standing relationship with the Clintons, were stunned when word of the private email server was first reported by the New York Times in March of 2015, according to those stolen emails published by WikiLeaks. And I know you say that this is the Russians and they're trying to influence the election.
It's not me that says it. It's a lot of people who say it, including the government.
Okay.
So.
Intelligence professionals say that. Be that as it may, you wrote to Robbie Mook on March 3rd of 2015, quote, "Did you have any idea of the depth of this story?" Neera Tanden, a Clinton ally who's now co-chairing your transition, wrote, "Why didn't they get this stuff out like 18 months ago? So crazy." You responded, "Unbelievable." Neera Tanden wrote, "I guess I know the answer. They wanted to get away with it." On July 25th of last year, Neera Tanden wrote, "Do we actually know who told Hillary she could use a private email, and has that person been drawn and quartered?" You're acting like the server was just a simple mistake, but these emails suggest that you and Robbie Mook and Neera Tanden knew this was going to be a big problem.
Well, look, it's easy with 20/20 hindsight. I think if someone had taken the steps and looked at it, if you know, one would have definitely made a different decision. But it happened. I think it was at the beginning it was just done for convenience. But at the end of the day, it was a major problem. I think, as I told you, I think she's learned from it. I've worked with her closely in this campaign. She takes hard advice. She's not, you know, she respects people who will get up in her face, and I think that the reason I've kind of survived through the whole campaign is because that's the kind of person I am.
You certainly are. Has anyone in the government provided you with a status report, John, on the investigation into your hacked and stolen emails?
No, I've talked to the the FBI at the beginning of this, and my attorney has been in touch with them. It's part of the investigation of the Russian hacks, but the scope of it, who knew what when, the fact that the Trump campaign seems to have been in contact with Julian Assange and from WikiLeaks quite early, at least as early as August. I don't know what their investigation
the Trump
is
campaign.
finding.
You're referring to Roger. Are you referring to Roger Stone saying that he
Trump confidant?
Okay.
Let me correct myself.
Okay.
A Trump confidant, Roger Stone, who bragged about being in touch with Julian Assange and talked about the fact that they were going to come after me. He did that back in August. So what the government has learned about the interactions between Assange and the Russians, it seems clear that the Russians were the ones who did the initial hack, how they got to WikiLeaks, what the relationship was with Roger Stone. I don't know. I assume that the government's looking at that, but I don't know anything more. Maybe Jim Comey, if he thinks it's important, will come out and let us know in the next 9 days.
Maybe he will. John Podesta, thank you so much. We appreciate your time as always.
Thanks, Jake.